I'm back! As obviously you know, I just moved house. And it was a funny thing to do during lockdown. There were some things that were very different. There were some things that were still just as hard work. But now it's mostly finished. And I just thought I'd come on here to talk about it. If my calculations are correct, that would make this day 49. Whew. Day 49 of these daily videos, which I've been doing just to, keep myself sane and document these crazy times, and also so we can keep each other company. And yeah, so I know I did say that I would do a moving video. I told a few people that that's what I'd be doing. I'd make one while I moved. But as it turned out, the way that we planned things and the way that we did things, it just, it wasn't practical for me to stop halfway through it and film stuff. Either I forgot about it, or I just, got really engrossed in what I was doing, or it would be unfair to Ben to leave him doing while I filmed. Even little snapshots. Maybe I could have got little snapshots, but then I would have had to be backing and forthing from what I was doing, and it just, it didn't feel practical in the end, So I apologise for that. There isn't really any footage. I say really, there is no footage of me moving, which I'm kind of glad about because I was a sweaty mess, okay? I've got 2 words for you. Heat rash. It was a really, really sunny day, really lovely. And although we've had more time now than we ever have moving before, because, we're locked down, surprisingly little was packed when the day came. We had a van that we hired, and we had that van for 3 days. When we went to pick up the van, it was kind of a bit funny because there was a sign on the door of the rental place saying, "Stay outside, we'll serve you outside." And then, we kept a physical distance from them at all times. But then, the lady who was serving us, she got in the van and she showed us around the van and stuff like that. So she was very much, it very much had her on it. And we jumped in the cab that she was in just seconds afterwards. So it's kind of like a funny blurred line, I guess, in terms of whether that made me uncomfortable or not, in terms of physical distancing. Yeah, it was funny because I needed to pay for the deposit, and so I did actually, I guess, come technically within the 2-meter rule because I had to put my card into this machine she had on the back of her iPad. So she showed me the back of the iPad, which she hadn't touched, and I had to put my card into it. And which I assume was disinfected afterwards, one would hope. And then after doing that, then that's when I was free to take the keys off of her and take the van. So we made sure that we washed our hands afterwards and everything like that. But that was very much she had to hand me things, right? Which then makes you wonder why that kind of business is open, but also thank God it was, otherwise we couldn't have moved. Our tenancy on the previous house is ending. We had to move somewhere, and we never could have got all of our furniture here without... I guess that's why it's an essential business, right? But the van that we rented, it was huge. It was huge. It was 3 cars length. I don't know how it couldn't be classified as a truck or a lorry, right? But I was quite intimidated to drive it at first, but then you kind of get used to it. I very quickly, it didn't even really feel that big anymore. One thing that always intimidates me about driving vans as well is the fact there's no rear view mirror. But even that, you get used to that quite quickly, surprisingly quickly. So once we'd got the van back, we did actually do a little, some friends needed some stuff that they needed to have moved. So I helped them out with that, but I stayed in the cabin of the van the entire time and then let them do their loading and unloading from the back. And then we sprayed disinfectant in there afterwards, which it's so weird that it's the norm now, right? So weird. But then it meant that obviously they wouldn't have to come in contact with the rental people or anything like that. Like, so I stayed in the cab. As bad as I felt leaving them to do all of their own heavy lifting, I stayed in the cab and I did the driving for them. They didn't get in the cab with me. We convoyed to where they needed to have the stuff moved to. And then, yeah, after that, back to the house to start loading. Well, technically we spent a day in this house painting it first. So we basically, whilst none of the furniture was in here basically, and really pleased with the way that turned out. We were hoping that, you know, we could get loads of painting done and then that maybe that evening make a trip in the van or something, but that didn't work out. It didn't work out. The reason we had it for a couple of days as well was just because of the practicality of moving on the bank holiday. Like, the business was closed on the bank holidays, so we weren't going to be able to pick up or drop off on those days. But it worked out for us because it meant that we got to have the van for a bit longer. And so, then the day after that was the one where it was a long day, long hard day, because we've got some heavy furniture. I mean, luckily we're both quite big lads, so we didn't need to have anyone else to help us, but it did turn out to be really hard work. Stuff like wardrobes and sofas and, you know, then stuff you have to be really careful with. We've got a really ridiculously thin television, stuff like that just never normally move at other times, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, manoeuvring around the corners of like the banister and stuff, just the constant lifting really gets your muscles going. I mean, I'm thankful for the exercise. I'm very thankful for the exercise, but it was a very long, hard, sweaty day. I mean, I guess I would rather it be nice and sunny and warm than rainy, right? Maybe not warm, but I'm glad it wasn't rainy. I'm glad it was a nice clear day, but we were very glad for that to be over by the end of it. And then since, we've been spending like some time on and off, and we need to clean the old house before we give the keys back. So that's about what we've kind of been doing since then, is going back to the old place and just like sticking on a podcast or something. I've been listening to Not Another D&D podcast, which I'm really enjoying actually. D&D on Dungeons and Dragons, Not Another Dungeons and Dragons podcast. And I'm on like episode, 4 or something, and I'm really enjoying it. I recently started my first Dungeons and Dragons campaign as a player, which is already really fun. And so I just thought, you know, I'd give myself a bit more flavour of the game. But, you know, it's been late nights, it's been very hot and sweaty, so, you know, I'm achy, my skin's terrible. My skin's terrible, and you know, which would probably fix a bit quicker if I wasn't drinking alcohol all the time, but you know, these are crazy times. These are crazy times we live in. And I decided that I was going to have a big wine before I talk to you about my move, because I earned it. God damn, I've earned it. It probably is time to start exercising in the garden and stuff again. I mean, I guess it hasn't been time off. We've been doing a lot of heavy lifting. There's still plenty to do in this house as well. As you can see by my very deliberate set dressing here. There's plenty of boxes still around that we need to sort through, find homes for things. I think this is a good opportunity for me to think about how I want my new studio room to be set up. Because I have, obviously, as you used to see behind me, the shelves of stuff. And I don't know maybe whether I want that in here anymore. Maybe I want to go for some like a bit more of a clean, cool, minimalist look, right? That would be fun. That'd be good. Well, I say fun, it'd be a bit different, right, at the very least. I don't know. But I think, you know, that's kind of it. There's rumours that tomorrow we're going to be given lots more information about the lockdown and where it's going and when we can expect measures to get a little bit lighter. But yeah, so when I get the news on that tomorrow, I'll give you a little update. But other than that, it's going to be sort of back to business as usual, I think. So I hope that you guys weren't I hope you guys liked the Let's Plays that I put in the interim. Like, it was a lot of fun making them, actually. And I do plan on continuing them. But, you know, I really just haven't given any thought space to those yet whatsoever. I've been thinking all about moving and sofas and painting and boxes. So many boxes. But, yeah, okay, bye.